What do you get when you take a drummer who does not know how to read music, doesn't know how to write traditional music notation, and put him in charge of writing the soundtrack to a legendary Disney movie? You get one of the hardest Disney songs of all time. I never even thought of this at first because I'm looking for the harmony, but already just the absolute bashing of the floor tom here is so sick.
Whatever you do, I'll do it too. Show me everything, tell me how. You don't need something.
So, obviously, we're talking about Strangers Like Me by Phil Collins, and this song to me is just, it's such a great illustration of why Phil is such an incredible songwriter, and this was such a banger. And it did so in maybe a slightly unexpected way. And although Phil has expressed as he's gotten older that he regrets not learning music theory in a traditional sense or how to read or write in traditional notation, I actually think that in cases like this is a great illustration on how sometimes that can literally be a superpower. Because you're not beholden to so many of their traditional rules that we might find ourselves falling into if we're just relying on everything we know about music theory. And while my goal with this channel is to help you learn more about music theory, we want to do so while remembering that rules are meant to be broken. Welcome to the first annual month of music, 30 days, 30 breakdowns, and 30 chances for you to learn about your favorite songs. And today, we're going to talk about why this is such a unique song. How it has a chorus that has this unique harmonic structure that we kind of don't find anywhere else. And I think it's because Phil Collins approached writing this thing from his own personal intuitive understanding of music. Let's just check this out from the beginning. So the first thing that we're looking at is this intro, and as the verse comes in, one of the things you're going to notice is that the note on the bottom doesn't change at all. Any of the chords that are happening move around, but that note stays the same. Whenever we do that, we call that a pedal tone. In this case, our pedal tone is a B flat, and we start out with a very simple chord progression here. It just goes... And right off the bat, I've got a question for you. What key is this in? Some of you may think the answer is obvious, but actually, I just want to give you an idea of why it may be not as obvious, and depending on how you hear things, you might be hearing it differently. This chart, the music that we're going to look at for this video, was put together by a very good friend of mine who helps me out with putting some notation together for different things that we cover on the channel. He clearly hears this or thought to write it in the key of B flat. That is a B flat key signature right there, right? And that, that makes a lot of sense because we harp on that B flat so much in this song. It's the pedal tone that we hang on to in the beginning, throughout the verse. We constantly come back to this. But here's the thing. My brain hears that B flat like a 5. Here's what I mean. So I'm hearing this song in the key of E flat, okay? In my brain, that's the home bass. I might be wrong, but we have a chart here that's written out in B flat, and my brain is hearing it in E flat, and I think it's just an interesting thing to think about. Let me know in the comments what you hear this as, because to me, I'm hearing this chord as the home bass, except we don't get it with the root on the bottom. Now, whenever that happens, we can have a chord that feels very resolved, except for the fact when we have the fifth on the bottom, it feels like, well, it sounds like the home bass, but it doesn't feel resolved. It doesn't feel like we're done. It feels like we're still going somewhere else, And maybe that's a testament to the energy this song has. Anyways, as we get into the verse, we're gonna hang on to that B flat. Let's listen to it a little bit.
Whatever you do, I'll do it too. Show me everything, tell me how.
And Phil's melody note hangs out on that B flat a lot also. So far, that's the first time we've gone anywhere right there. We'll get there in a second. But that verse, so our A section here, as we have it written out on our chart, we're sticking with that same chord progression, and we introduce the melody, which, as you can see, there are so many B flats in that melody. Right? How interesting is that? And I can't shake this feeling that the whole time that B flat is the 5, right? Of E flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it gives the whole thing this sort of tension, like, we're going somewhere. We're building something up. Something's happening here, right? And then finally, on the B section, you heard it very briefly. We're going to listen to it in a second, but we get an E flat chord, except it doesn't really feel that much like a resolution either, because as soon as we hit that E flat chord, we're now going somewhere else entirely. Listen to this.
Oh, I can see there's so much to learn. It's all so close and yet so far. I see myself as people see
That chord, nobody
me.
expected.
I just know there's something bigger out there. I wanna know.
Oh man, this is such a banger. Okay, so here's the thing. When we hit that pre-chorus, you know, it really does kind of feel like, okay, yeah, that's the resolution. I don't know. I'll let you know at the end what I really think. But so far, I'm really feeling that E flat is the home base. But anyways, so we go from, let's call this the 1. Let's assume I'm right. I don't know. So we'll call this E flat, and then we go from there to the 4 chord, A flat. But then all of a sudden, we start doing something odd. Okay, we drop down a minor third to a major chord, which we don't really expect here. Well, we do expect it if we're in the key of B flat, I guess. I don't know. Anyways. So we get an F major. Now we resolve like a 5-1 going to B flat. But then we're still not resolved in any way, shape, or form because we're going somewhere else entirely. We get a G major chord, and the entire harmonic palette thus far is begging this chord to go. Isn't it? I mean, we just expect to feel, we expect to hear that C minor there. Especially going back to A flat. All that building up to the chorus. But we don't get a C minor. We instead get a C major chord out of nowhere before dropping that E natural entirely and going back to our E flat to play that A flat chord. It's like that C major chord just comes out of nowhere and smacks you in the face with this harmony you haven't heard yet anywhere in the song. It is so interesting, this entire pre-chorus section. What? I love that rhythmic build-up into the chorus. We have basically like dotted eighths. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Hold on. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, and 2, 3, 4. There it is. But coming from a drummer, you would expect nothing less, right? You're gonna expect some really cool rhythmic stuff going on. Not to mention the fact that the melody also adds a pickup to each one of those hits, right? So the hits are on the dotted quarter. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the melody adds a pickup. How cool is that?
That's pretty neat.
And then finally, we're into the chorus. Oh, what a chord! That one. Oh, I cannot get over how good that chord is. And this is one of the reasons why, like I mentioned at the beginning, when you take somebody that doesn't have a traditional music theory background, who doesn't even read music notation or write it like this, he has his own personal system that he's used to kind of illustrate what he wants things to sound like. But like, when you remove the guardrails, you can wind up with things that are very consonant in the sense that Phil Collins clearly has a great ear and understands what music sounds like. Like it's not as though he doesn't know what he's doing. He obviously knows what he's doing. But there are some guardrails that maybe you or I with a background in theory, we might not think to do some of these things. It's not that they're against the rules necessarily. It's just that sometimes when you're not operating from this standpoint of like, well, how do songs typically go like this? You know, and you have this deep knowledge of, well, here's a normal chord progression and all this stuff. And you wind up with something that sounds, like I said, very consonant. It's not as though this doesn't work or it sounds that outlandish. It's just that there are a few very small things that I think set this apart from so many other songs. So we have the chorus now. This is when we get, okay, I'm going to make another argument for E flat here because to me this sounds like the resolution we've been waiting for. Right? Doesn't that sound like a resolution, finally? Oh, that F minor chord. That F minor chord might be my favorite chord of this entire song. And it's one of the reasons I think it is so unique. So let's call this a 5-1. Let's consider ourselves as in E flat. So we have this 5-1 resolution. Then we go back to the 5, but then that F minor chord just smacks us in the face, and it's so beautiful, and it creates this really cool bass motion. Oh no, we don't go to the A flat, we stay on the B flat. Anyways. Oh, I love that chord. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's a 2. If we're in E flat, it's a 2 chord, right? Maybe that's it. Sometimes when we use the minor 2 chord, it almost functions like a substitute for like the 4. That would be like the more normal thing. What would that sound like if we played that? Maybe. That's if we use the A flat as though it was a 4 chord. Notice how it doesn't have the same effect. Oh, that would kind of be like a double plagal cadence. Right? Where we have a 4-1 and then a 4-1, right? That's so much more normal. You know what I mean? Like that would be so much more like expected, I guess, in a sense. But instead we go. It's so good. I don't know. Something about it is just incredible. And then the only other thing we get is, and it just hangs out on that B flat. I think it's just wow. I mean, come on. That's really interesting because the melody is a D there. What's the chord? Is it that? It might be that. I mean, yeah, because we clearly are singing the D natural there. The bass note is clearly B flat. And I think the harmony, if it follows what we've been doing this whole time, we would expect kind of an A flat sound there. That's cool.
Every gesture, every move that she makes me feel like never before. Why do I have this?
And we can hear the chorus chords going on, but they're much more subtle. And we're keeping. Oh, here we go. E flat to A flat, dropping a minor third, F major, B flat major, dropping another minor third, play a G major chord to a C major chord, and then A flat. So this whole interlude section, we're playing around. Wow, what a freeze frame. So this whole interlude section, we're playing around with this, like, we have our E flat chord, except we're putting the third in the bass. We go up to our A flat. We just kind of play around here. We get our F minor chord. We're kind of just playing mostly with these 3 chords. Except we get this. We wrote it here as an E flat minor over G flat, and that's kind of what we're hearing. You could look at this as just like a G flat major chord, I think would work also. Back down to the F minor. There's just so much great stuff going on here. And then we work our way back in.
There's a world I need to know.
We wasted all this time on what he wants. The boat could arrive.
And we're almost done with the whole thing, but we have one important detail left, and that is chromatic key change up a half step, exactly the same thing. See, but then at the end, we end on B major. And that, what key is this in? It kind of just makes me question myself yet again. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe this thing is in B flat and now B, and not E flat and now E. Because again, I was thinking of this as E. Like that's a 5-1 resolution. You know what? I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that this song is an absolute banger. And it's purely because Phil Collins is a genius. I mean, there's no other explanation. And I think part of the genius comes from the fact that you get somebody who's not bound by any rules. They're simply writing in such an intuitive manner that things come out that maybe you or I wouldn't have thought of. And I think that's one of the superpowers of not being bound by a rule book. Now, that being said, knowing music theory is, of course, a superpower in and of itself. It's just important that we do not allow it to create guardrails for ourselves. And I think Phil Collins is a perfect example of not allowing that to happen. Yeah, what a song. I just wanted to talk about that today. I thought it'd be a cool one to cover. Such a banger. I love seeing the comments in all the videos about these, basically the entire Tarzan soundtrack, where it says, Phil Collins didn't need to go that hard, but he did it for us. And that's exactly it. I mean, this whole soundtrack is just outrageously good. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Month of Music. We will see you back here tomorrow.